people don't realize how much work, at least for us. Because Stirewalt, Bill Salmon, and I, along with Brett Baer and Chris Wallace, that was the debate team. That was the dream team that did all those debates in 2012 and 2016. The gang was together. And in 2020, we didn't have Republican debates. And so all those tough questions that, made news in good ways and bad ways, that was all us. Everybody's weighing in together, and we've got the gang back together. Not Chris and Brett, of course, because they're at different networks, but Stirewalt and Salmon and yours truly, along with Eliana and Elizabeth and some other teammates sitting in there. And that's the magic that makes the questions go from good to great. From like, okay to wow.
Well, the thing is, when you're interviewing somebody, it's a colloquy. You're going back and forth. You're nudging, you're interrupting, you're doing a little verbal pause, you're letting them know, like, I'm coming in. These have to be self-contained. They have to have the detonator in them so that when you hurl them up on stage, it goes off, it goes boom. And that means that you have to craft them, build them, make sure that they're airtight. And then you have to make sure that they're journalistically creditable. And you can't shortcut that. And I have seen debates, and I'm not here to cast aspersion on any debate, on any network, any other place.
Aspersions,
but I will just say, you can't say, what about it? Hey, what's going on with XYZ? And you can't just toss it out there because you know what you're going to get. You're going to get the same fluff, the same boilerplate, the same crapola that you get in a campaign speech. Your job is to push them beyond that out of their comfort zone and out of where their handlers want them to be.
Yeah. People may not realize, it takes hours and hours to come up with one question. And contrast that with this show. For this show, I read all the news. I read. My team gives me a packet on whatever guest I have coming on, in addition to my own research. And then I ask questions that I think are interesting live. I don't have scripted questions. I don't do that for this show. It's a different thing. But for a presidential debate, it's hours because you've got to research all the candidates' positions. You've got to compare and contrast if you're doing it right. You've got to figure out what's the way in, what's going to make it more interesting. Like, what could they actually debate? Because that's what people want to see. What have they already been asked about? So you've got to go over all the transcripts of the earlier debates. You're looking to move it all forward, right? Like, make it more interesting, make them ideally debate, and get them off of their talking points. So there's so much that has to go into this question. They all start off 2 paragraphs long. And then over time, you just edit. And ideally, you get it down to like 3 lines so that they can be the star when you're done. But you can't just say like, hey, write a question on this the morning of. It goes through so much vetting and tightening and research.
And then right when you're on the 1-yard line, a researcher says, oh, actually, I found something really interesting that this candidate said about this 6 months ago or a year. And you're like, okay, now we have to come back in, see what we can save, see what we have to throw away. And it takes real emotional maturity because, as your husband would know, the editor's saying is, you have to kill your darlings.
Yeah.
It's very hard to kill your darlings.
Yeah.
So you come up with a question, you're like, oh, this is great. I really love this. And you have to be willing to say, nope, it's gone, and we're going to move on and do the next thing.
Yeah, I know. But our plan in an ideal world is to kill our darlings and to let the little darlings slide by the wayside as the candidates take over the show.
That's right.
That's what we consider a win. You just never know. We're setting them up perfectly to debate, and we want them to debate. We want them to be the stars, not us. But, what if they show up sleepy? We're good. We're prepared.
That's right.
If they do, we don't think that they will.
No, the stakes are too high.
Let's talk about that. Like, what do you expect tonight? Because this is it. This probably, we don't know for sure, is going to be the last debate before the vote, before Iowa. There could be another one. It's definitely the last debate of 2023, but there's not a fifth one scheduled.
Certainly, it seems like it will be the last sanctioned debate. It will be the last official debate. That's what every indication is now. There'll be rogue debates and weird debates and other stuff, right? But in terms of the real deal, this is it. So there's 2 groups of people on the stage out of these 4. You can pair them off. You have Ramaswamy and Christie hanging on, right, in by the skin of their teeth, barely in the debate. And they have to be thinking about, maybe this is the last time, right? Maybe this is the last time. This is their closing moment with voters. Part of it is there something I can do to change this race and get back in it? But another part is, what do I want my legacy to be? What's my lasting thing here? How will I be remembered in this run?
Well, that's Christie, right? Oh, but Vivek, it's not a legacy, but it is the last sort of word publicly in a big stage.
And what's the future? They're thinking about their future. And Chris Christie very famously in his last debate in the 2016 cycle garroted Marco Rubio, leaving him for dead on the side of a New Hampshire highway.
It was very effective.
It was very effective. And Rubio was right for it. Rubio did it to himself. But
He
Christie
did. It was a terrible moment for him.
Christie helped him to it. So Christie is thinking, has to be thinking, okay, this is maybe or probably my last moment here. How do I want to be remembered by my party? How do I want to do this? For Ramaswamy, I don't know what, there are many Viveks. I do not know which one we will get to see on the debate stage or what he's thinking about his future. At the center of the stage, you have two people who are in the finals to be the opponent of Donald Trump. And I think that we're here in Alabama, we're on the campus of the University of Alabama. The football analogies write themselves. This is who gets to go to the championship. These two are playing each other for the last spot to face Donald Trump, because there can't be two. If there are two, if there's two at 12%, that's not a problem for Donald Trump, and he'll just blow past them if they can't sort themselves out. The way I think about it is there's about a third of the Republican Party that's pretty interested in having an alternative to Donald Trump. You can't face the final boss. You can't play for the championship unless you can consolidate that. They'll be thinking about that. They'll be thinking about how hard they want to go against each other. Because remember, every time you attack somebody in politics, you probably hurt them, but you hurt yourself a little bit too, right? You drive up your own. Oh, absolutely. You drive up your own negatives when you attack the other person. So each attack comes at a cost, and especially for DeSantis, who's been stalled for so long, he needs to arrest Haley's advance, but can he afford to alienate people who have her as a second choice or maybe are interested in her, especially in Iowa?
I'm very interested to see what he does, because she's coming for him. She's right behind him in Iowa, and he's got to get rid of her. He's got to find a way of getting her off of his back. If he doesn't win Iowa, his campaign's done. That's what most experts will say.
He's at least a very solid second.
Yeah, okay, so, right, I don't mean win-win. Of course, it looks like Donald Trump is going to win-win all of these, but if DeSantis doesn't come in first among the undercard, I think his campaign pretty much said, like, this is it. We're going to trust us. So what does he do? Because in the first three debates, Stirewalt, he was not sleepy, but not aggressive.
Right.
And like, she came out ready to punch, pugilistic, and started to go up in the polls. It wasn't like dramatic, but she went up in the polls. He kind of just has been going steady Eddie. And I've heard arguments both ways, that that's working for him and that it's not. Like, he's holding, he's not losing a ton, but tonight he's got a lot on the line. So does he come out and throw the punches the way we saw with COVID Ron DeSantis?
You can imagine what Ron DeSantis' handlers have been telling him leading up to this debate, right? And some of them are saying, you've got to go. And we've heard from his campaign a lot of tough stuff about Nikki Haley. He's alluded to some of that stuff. Go attack Nikki Haley. But also we see that the rictus smile, the seasick smile that Ron DeSantis
seasick.
That he favors, where he looks, it looks like somebody just stepped on his toes. And so he's been trying to be likable and affable, and he's trying to steer a way in there. If I'm Haley, I want DeSantis on the attack, because Nikki Haley has thrived in her political career when dudes are attacking her in politics. She's they go low, we go high. The dignity, the Thatcherite dignity in the face of what many women would think of as sexist kind of attacks. That's where Nikki Haley likes to be. When Donald Trump called her bird brain and his campaign put a bird cage in front of her hotel room, she grabbed it. She was like, yep, see how they do me? That's what they're doing to me. So if you're Nikki Haley, you're bracing for DeSantis to be on the attack. How do I elevate above that? How do I look dignified and stateswoman-like in the face of that? And if you're DeSantis, you know that, right? So you can't go too hard, and figuring out where and how. The thing I will most be looking for with DeSantis, what kind of attacks does he make on Haley? Does he make policy attacks, or does he make personal attacks? Does he question her character? Does he question who she is as a person? Or does he disagree with her on policy? If he's going for her on personal attacks, this is going to be a real goat rodeo, not just in this debate for them, but over the next 50 days into Iowa, and they'll basically wreck each other. They could wreck each other going there. If he takes the higher road and talks about her policies as governor and talks about policy disagreements that they've had on the trail, then maybe Republicans who don't want Trump can keep hope alive that this will be resolved.
Negative dings on credit reports happen to all sorts of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Understanding the credit landscape can be extremely tough, and spending the time to dispute and repair these so-called dings can be a full-time job. Good luck to you if you already have one of those and children or anything else going on. For starters, you have to deal with 3 separate credit bureaus. It's a massive headache. It's also a common misconception that people with poor credit scores are just those who don't pay their credit card bills. No, these can be very hardworking people who are negatively affected by divorce, identity theft, medical debt, student loans, what have you. And they just don't have time or, to fix it, or they're too overwhelmed by the process. But if you don't address negative credit items, they can haunt you for years to come, and when it counts the most, like getting a mortgage at a competitive rate. The good news is that our sponsor, Lexington Law, wants to help. Go to lexingtonlaw.com and start today with a free consultation and review. Tell them Megyn sent you at lexingtonlaw.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.